Welcome to Blue Jays Today, where we always have something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Nicholas Blaylock.
And I'm your host, Adam Peddle. And today, guys, when are the Blue Jays going to extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? We got to lock him down long term. We got to know when, and how long, and how much. We're going to talk all about that. But before we do, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that post notification bell button. And this video is brought to you by Monkey Knife. Use the code TODAYJAYS to get discounts and deals that you'll see throughout the entire video. All right, Nick. So, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he's a beast. He's a stud. Second in MVP. We want to keep him long term. What are your thoughts about extending him?
Well, I think it should happen at some point. I also think, too, it's like, and just as you were saying all that, like, blah, 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 when are we going to do it? How much money? Like, how, man, it's got to be goddamn nice to be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. right now, eh?
Nice.
22 years old, second in MVP, and you have, like, people like us taking time out of their day, literally talking about how much you're going to get paid and, like, all the millions and millions of dollars. I'm just jealous of Vladdy. But it's definitely going to happen, I think, or at least the Toronto Blue Jays are going to make a very serious effort to get it done. The biggest question is when, because Vlad is 22 right now. He has 4 years left on arbitration. Now, granted, those arbitration years, if he continues doing what he did last year, they're not going to be like cheap arbitration years. They're going to start to be money. I think this year, for instance, it's estimated that he'll get $8 million. The next year would be, more and more and more than that. So, I mean, we do need to factor that in. But right now, he will be a free agent far in the future, way down the line. 4 World Series, Toronto Blue Jays World Series from now, actually. So it does really beg the question, like, is now the time to go after Vladdy, to lock him down, to make sure after, like, one really incredible year, or is it, better to go sit and wait a little bit?
Well, it's all because, like you said, the arbitration, arbitration years, when they're earlier, you can pay a little bit less. Like $8 million is what we're estimating. And that's a guy coming off an almost MVP year.
Could be, 50 home runs next year for all we know.
Exactly. And $8 million is super, super cheap. So in that regards, like it's almost like we already guarantee like a pre-built contract that's going to be super cheap, but it will steadily get more and more and more. I do want to read out, this was an article written by Chris Hendeven, excuse me.
Shout out
to that guy. But he predicted like arbitration first, $8 million. Next year, if he's still doing MVP stuff, next year would be 15. Then it'd be 23, and then 30 million by the time we hit his 4th arbitration.
Assuming he has been this elite for that time.
He's been this elite because Mookie Betts made close to 30 million when he was on his last arbitration years. And MVP, and he was MVP, Mookie Betts.
Fair enough.
So with that all being said, like, do we enjoy the cheapness now, or do we sign him to a contract, and how do we structure that contract? Because he might get paid a lot more now, depending on how we structure it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, guys, I think that we need to enjoy this cheapness for at least this year. $8 million, if that is what Vladimir Guerrero is going to get paid, seems like a steal of a deal, and just seems like something that you don't want to pass up on. We'd still have him for 3 more years after that to go and get a deal done, so it's not like, we're strapped for time here, like he's going to be hitting free agency next year or anything like that. So I do think that we need to enjoy at least this year. After that, if he does it again, if he does it one more time, it's like, holy, okay, like this is what he is. Because we got to think about that too. Even though I'm pretty sure everybody knows Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the real deal, we are going to invest at least $300 million in this. If you're going to buy a $300 million toy, you want to make sure that this thing works properly. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I kind of want to see you do it one more time. If he does, then I think maybe next year you got to start looking at what you were saying, potentially structuring a contract that resembles arbitration, a little bit cheaper at that front half, so we can still have that World Series window. We can still sign a couple other dudes, and then maybe get some more expensive as time goes on. Yeah,
like for a really close example is Fernando Tatis Jr., who already has that built-in like arbitration style structure for the next 3 years in his contract, and then for his like mid-20s to late 20s, he's kind of gets like a mid 20 million, and then in his later 30s, it's more of like 36 million per year.
Yeah.
Which that can be expensive, especially maybe if he starts to tail off in the end of his career. But it's the risk that you have to do if you want to guarantee an extension like Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
That is the thing, right? I mean, like if you're gonna pay for Vlad, you're gonna pay for Vlad. And that's another thing too. Like, how much is he going to cost? Well, if he does, similar to what he did last year in Baseball Reference right now, for instance, Baseball Reference likes to put projections out there. Usually they are wildly underrated from what the player is actually going to do. They're projecting that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has a 900 OPS on the dot. You know, and it's like, that's a pretty damn good projection.
I'll take it. I'll still take it.
I'd be very happy with that. I would be very happy with that, right? And frankly, Baseball Reference, they always go under than what it actually is, in my opinion. So, I mean, if he does do another 900 OPS season, you know, over 30 bombs, like getting on base all the time, we are looking at, you know, 330, 340, 350 million dollars. And the more time that goes on, the more years, the more home runs he hits, that number's just going to keep going up, man.
Yeah, when you said 350, that's exactly what I thought. If you could see it, I erased it multiple times on my notebooks. I was like, how much is he going to pay? I was like, 300. No. 350. 350 is it, guys. Like that's it. Because Fernando Tatis Jr. got 330. And it's like, you kind of like, as history shows, you've got to get more than the last guy. You know what I mean? If you're making a new contract. So, and I think Tatis and Vladdy are very similar players, but you do got to get a little bit more, especially if he does it again.
And here's the other thing too, right? It's like, I do think that next year is the perfect time, guys, because look at what's happening with Juan Soto right now. They're taking time.
Yes,
they're taking their time. And now the number is starting to be talked about in the $400 million range.
Yes.
Now Juan Soto is getting talked about, a dude who's going to get paid over $400 million. And frankly, deservingly so.
Yeah.
I think that this guy is going to be potentially the best player in baseball for the next decade, maybe, right? He does deserve that money. But I don't really want to get to a place where we're paying Vladimir Guerrero Jr. $400 million.
No.
I do want him on this team long term, but it's like, if we can find that happy balance of like, hey, we can still go out and get Chris Bryant because you're on this arbitration deal, but we can still get you on, you know, a pretty solid deal for the team.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to do here.
We need to give it a shot, guys.
Let's say Vladimir Guerrero Jr., for instance, hits like 750 OPS next year.
Okay.
Does this change things for you?
Yeah, I'm not signing the contract yet.
Okay,
I'm not signing the contract
This changes
yet.
things. This changes things. What's the floor of, like, you know, like batting average, OPS kind of thing?
For
where it's
OPS, for me, it's like 825.
825.
825.
Okay,
Anything lower than that, I'm like, ooh, starting to question.
Do I really want to spend like $350 million? Okay,
yeah.
That seems reasonable. Yeah, maybe a little bit higher for me. Let me like 840. You know,
840. Yeah. That's
you know,
fair.
it's like,
that's fair.
This is what at your worst year, 840.
Hey, if he goes 820, then sign him to something cheaper.
That's you know, but that's another thing too.
Yeah.
If he did go 750, maybe you buy in. Maybe you're like, well, I think you're gonna bounce back. Like, I'm gonna do it now. Your value
exactly.
lower. This is the gamble, This is the gamble right now.
I'm ready to buy in.
Yeah,
I'm ready to buy in.
You just gotta hope it's like, that's just, you know, I don't know what happened there, Vlad, but like, we're gonna go back to like thin Vlad, and like we're gonna go talk to Guerrero Sr. and you know, to remember the basis.
Yeah, agreed. So guys, let us know in the comments down below, how much are you gonna pay Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and how long would you want him on a deal for? Let us know in the comments
Bro.
down
This guy's
below.
gonna be 65 years old and still smacking dingers for the Toronto Blue Jays. You can also check us out on Spotify, Breaker, Anchor, Radio Public, and Google Podcasts. Please make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below, like Adam's saying. Also, today, Jay's at the code for Monkey Knife Fight. The sweet deals that were popping up, you can get them. It's cheap. You get nice things. And also, $3 a month. Become a Patreon member. Shout out and thank you to every single one of these current Patreon members. You guys are elite. You make this show keep going.
And thank you so much for watching.
Go Jays, go!